Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. Two Jokers won championships, and we have a very special guest, the CEO and founder of NextLinks, Dave Shultz, later on in the show. But before we get into any of that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who rode on a boat during a flood with two of every animal, my dad, Tim.
Noah? You're taking me back to Noah now.
Yeah, I figured that was a good way to go.
The week of Father's Day, and you're taking me, calling me that old.
I mean, yeah.
Well, considering I found out I have to have hip resurfacing on my left one later on this year.
You're going to have the cane with the tennis balls on it pretty soon here. If you end up with a walker that has tennis balls on it, I am going to take pictures, and that is the picture going on my mantle.
I did not use it the last freaking time I had a hip resurfacing, and I'm not using one this way.
I think I just found my Father's Day gift for him, folks. I'm pretty excited about this. But two Jokers won championships. Djokovic won the French Open, becoming the all-time leader in Grand Slams.
Men's leader. Margaret Court still has 24.
True. Very, very true. He's at 23 now, though.
Correct.
So he's getting close to that, too.
Plus, he's won the first two Grand Slam events this year.
Well, that's what's about to get interesting.
You can't keep him out of the country.
So, for those of you that don't know, there was a situation earlier this year where Djokovic was not allowed to play at the, what's it called, Miami?
Miami tournament.
Indian something.
Okay.
But the Miami tournament is a tennis tournament down in Miami. He was not allowed to play because he was not allowed to be in the country because he is very publicly not vaccinated from COVID-19.
We let a certain quarterback that used to play in Green Bay and now plays in New York, another very vocal, non-vaccinated player.
Yeah.
It's been proven now the vaccine's marginally effective at best. How can you keep him out? He goes to Wimbledon next. I'm assuming
he has a very good chance because here's the thing. Rafa's hurt. He's done. Federer is done.
Yeah.
Unless he has some magic Jimmy Connors run back, which he could. He could. But odds are he's either way, he's falling apart, and Joker's at the top of his game right now.
Did you think?
Odds are he's the favorite to win Wimbledon. So if he wins Wimbledon, and the U.S., New York, has specifically said already that he's not coming into this country because he's not vaccinated from COVID-19, which I thought this was all over at this point. I don't know why it's still a conversation.
I have no idea.
But how can you keep him out and stop him from going to do something that only one other, well, let's be honest, no other tennis player has ever done before?
Okay, if you're going to say win on four surfaces, fine. But Rod Laver did win two Grand Slams.
On grass.
One was when he was amateur, and one was as a professional.
All on grass.
Or
Make
clay.
no mistake, old man.
Clay.
They were
clay.
all on grass.
They were not. The French Open was on clay.
Okay, he played one tournament on clay, and the rest were on grass. The U.S., Australian, and Wimbledon were all grass courts at that point.
They were, and still impossible to do with the talent around him. Look, did anybody think? I thought Federer was going to go down as probably the greatest of all time.
Nobody thought he was going to touch his record by the time he retired.
And Djokovic isn't just a guy who sits on the baseline. He is an all-court player.
He is.
He can hit every shot.
He is the greatest tennis player of all time. He has passed Federer. My opinion has completely changed. He is the greatest tennis player of all time.
If he's not, he's certainly in a conversation of maybe two, and I don't know who the other person would be. Honestly,
that's a change of tune from you. I was not expecting that.
I've never seen a player as dominant as Djokovic, and I am a huge Rod Laver fan. Nobody played the game like him. Nobody has played the game like Djokovic does right now. He's going to win 24. He could win 25 this year and be the all-time leader. So I think it's the last 20 years.
We got this on camera of you saying somebody's better than Rod Laver, right? Let me tell you, folks, I have never heard the end of this Rod Laver conversation where Rod Laver is God's gift to man on a tennis court. And all of a sudden, you are changing your tune
Look, he's won 23, and he's done it against some of the greatest players of all time. He's done it against Federer. He's done it against Rafa Nadal. Now, granted, Nadal wasn't playing in the French this year.
His knees are bad. Let's be honest. If it was a game of yesteryear, Rafa wins a couple French Opens and his career's done. His knees would have never held up to the serve and volley. The fact that you got to go on the baseline is what helped Rafa extend his career.
And we've talked about it. Look, I love Djokovic because years and years ago when he was struggling, he went back and for 30 days played with a wood racket.
He did.
I give him so many props for that because the game is better with wood, and I will be the old guy on that. It was back when you could play. It was a chess match back in the day when there was Connors and Borg and McEnroe and Laver and all those guys. Now it's just a power game, and it's not the same. That's why you're seeing the rise of pickleball.
Listen, number one, don't you talk about pickleball on this show.
That's why it's gotten popular.
Number two, I don't think you're going to find anybody that loves tennis that's going to disagree with you. Technology has ruined the game of tennis, unlike it has any other sport. It's enhanced every other sport. It's enhanced baseball. It's enhanced football. It's enhanced golf even to an extent because you can change the course, right? But when it comes to tennis, the court's the same size. And
the only thing that's changed,
you just pounding the ball at this point.
You can hit the ball so much harder. I mean, you'd look back at the Borgs and McEnroe and even the Roscoe Tanners, one of the biggest hitters of all time. He was playing with a little aluminum racket and maybe could hit it 125 miles an hour.
Right.
Very fast, but you could get it back and you could see it. Now when these guys are hitting 150 miles an hour, you have no prayer. You don't dare come to the net because you take your life in your hands. So it's sad to see that happen. But last night, let's go to the other joke.
Where's Batman, by the way, in all of this?
Yeah.
Where is Batman to save the day from all these jokers taking over the world? Because you know the Joker pretty soon will be coming to Gotham. I had to.
Would you stop?
U.S. Open's in New York, Gotham City. Joker's coming to Gotham.
USA is in L.A. U.S. Open's in L.A. this weekend. The golf U.S. Open.
Don't confuse me.
Anyway.
Okay. I already have to relearn how to speak on this show half the time. I don't need you confusing me more.
So Miami was in the game last night. They had opportunities. But in the end, Denver was just a better team.
Yeah, so for those of you that didn't watch, it was Game 5 last night, and the Nuggets ended up winning the NBA championship on their home court. Joker winning MVP honors of that series, which there was no doubt that he should have. He is by far the best player in the game. He should have won the MVP this year. And this fact, we can't give him 3 in a row. Well, listen, you shouldn't have given him 3 in a row because this should be 2 in a row because Giannis should have won 3 in a row. This whole thing of you can't have 3 in a row.
Got to spread it around.
Like, otherwise we have to, because who had it? Bill Russell had 3 in a row. Kareem had 3 in a row. I think those are the only 2. So I get it being like, hey, we need to make sure only the best players in the world. But listen, forget the sacred bullshit. Those are the best players in the game right now. And I hate that. Purity stuff.
Well, and Kareem would say, look, if somebody earns it, he should get it. And Giannis certainly earned it. Joker has won the last 2 and probably would win next year. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Embiid. He had a great year. But
He did. But it's not Embiid's fault. People keep having better years. What did Babe Ruth famously say when he was the first person to make a higher salary than the president?
He had a better year. Exactly.
Still the greatest sports line of all time.
Well done. My God.
That's my favorite line in all of sports.
Wow.
Who was president? Hoover at the time, I think it was.
Hoover or Coolidge.
Yeah. And they had a press conference with the two of them together, and they asked him, how does it feel to be the first person to make more money than the president? I had a better year. And greatest line of all time.
And he did. So anyways,
the Denver Nuggets, the Miami finally just met their match. The thing Miami was able to do is they were stronger in the fourth quarter. As everybody else was getting tired, they were getting strength. It was like watching the Thing versus the Hulk. The Hulk gets stronger as time goes on. The Thing is still a human, just a very strong human, and he gets tired. And the Hulk finally met his match where you found a team that knew what they were going to do in the fourth quarter and was able to put a stop to it.
But like I said, Butler had a couple chances, but they were just off target. I think he was running out of gas a little bit.
How could you not? He's carried that team.
Yes. He had look, Miami had a fantastic run. Nobody expected him to be there. They thought they'd be out in the first round against Milwaukee. That didn't happen. They beat everybody in front of them. Denver was just the best team in the NBA this year.
Hands down. Let me ask you this, though. So Joker just put himself in the Hall of Fame. He'll be retired by the Denver Nuggets. He will be in the NBA Hall of Fame. Did Jimmy Butler, this playoff season, put himself in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. I think he did. I think. If not, he's one of those guys that if he's not put in, he's going to be the Ron Santo of the Basketball Hall of Fame. Has all the records, did everything he was asked to. He didn't have a championship.
I take that to heart. Ron Santo is the best third baseman of all time and was screwed over.
Okay, I love Ron Santo.
Best third baseman of all time.
He was not the best third baseman of all time. Mike Schmidt has that hands down. The
Mike
fight,
Schmidt, who? Come on.
Battles for number 2, and Santo's in that conversation, kind of. He's in the top 5, 6.
All right, he's the greatest third baseman of the 60s. Happy?
That he is, because he won that award.
Listen, Chipper Jones, Mike Schmidt, Eddie Matthews. There's a couple other guys.
Brooks Robinson.
Brooks Robinson is not better than Ron Santo.
No.
You take that back.
I just wanted to see the rise out of you. You know I don't agree with it, because I'm the one always fighting with people going, no, Santo was better.
If it wasn't for the damn black cat, Ron Santo proves that he is better in every statistical category, including looks on the field.
Okay.
And he had to play while his sugar was crashing because he was a type 1 diabetic.
You had to keep that hidden for a long time.
He did.
We've talked tennis. We've talked basketball. We've talked baseball.
Thanks for the recap.
You're welcome. And now we get to talk about everyone's favorite summer sport, golf. It's the U.S. Open this weekend, but we've got a very special guest.
We do. Let me tell you, folks, if you have not heard of NextLinks Golf yet, you will. This is the future of golf, and we get to interview the founder and CEO, Dave Shultz. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good, Kyle. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for thanks for coming on, I should say, as I'm learning how to speak again. I apologize. But hey, first and foremost,
all good.
Tell us about NextLinks, why you developed it, and really what NextLinks is.
So, I mean, NextLinks is everything you're hearing about Tiger's new indoor golf league at its core, right? So, on St. Patrick's Day 2015, I was, in the middle of a 25-year corporate leadership career, and I was playing golf at Spanish Bay with my son, who happened to be born on St. Patrick's Day, and we were celebrating. And he was beating me, shooting like 70-something, and I was shooting like 90-something. And I just looked at him, I said, "You're an a-hole because you're in college, and I got you to get a job at a club while you're in college, so now you're a scratch golfer. I'm working all the time, and I never get a chance to play, and now you're beating me. And I'm the old guy who should be playing a lot of golf, and instead you're the young guy playing a lot of golf." And then I said, "And then there's that Top Golf." And I said, that's going to change the entire culture of golf, but their game isn't any good. There's got to be a better game. And so that was kind of that day. And then, in the night, how things happen, I dreamt about it. And I woke up the next morning and I said, "Eth, what if you used these screen games, like golf simulators, for all the full power shots?" And we'd already, they'd been around for 15 years, and I'd already played in them and I understood them. I said, they work pretty good when you're hitting as hard as you can, but as soon as you get to touch and feel and putting, they're just worthless, right? So I said, what if you could create a real game, right, where all of your full power shots are in that, and all of your touch shots are on a real surface? Let's call it a synthetic surface. Let's put a roof over it. And what if you could make a game that actually worked out of those two components? And he looked at me and goes, "Dad, that sounds friggin' badass," right? And his girlfriend at the time, who was his wife and my daughter-in-law now, looked at me and she goes, "Dang, what you just described, I don't golf, but that sounds like a lot of fun." So, that was kind of it. And I, from that moment, I really couldn't think about anything else. And so by August of 2015, I'd already mentally disconnected from my work, and I'd filed for a patent. And the patent was designed to really protect a key ingredient that I knew would be required, because the only way I would ever get this giant vision off the ground was to share it, right? There's no way that I'm going to be able to go create a global, sport on my own if I'm afraid to tell people what it is. And so, I spent like 4 or 5 months thinking about how do I protect this? And I finally came up with the software bridge. I'm like, the only way to go from the screen to a real putting green is some kind of a software solution. And so I started thinking about all the different ways you could use software to create that bridge. And I wrote and filed for a patent, and filed for it like August 5th, 2015, I think. And it was finally issued in May of 2018. In the meantime, it's been quite a journey. So what I've been doing is sort of building software and proving concepts around the patent without the wherewithal to actually bring it into the market. And so we've had a lot of success with elemental requirements to make putting fun all by itself. So if you sort of disconnect the whole simulator experience, what we did is we started writing software as if we already had played the simulator part, and then how would we identify where to go on the green in this software? And so we bought these nightclub spotlights that you go dancing with, and started programming them to point beams of light, on a putting green, and then we got a casino interested, and it's kind of funny. The first people I approached were the Robert Trent Jones Jr. family. And they called me, and we arranged to have dinner up in Palo Alto at their headquarters. And they sort of went into business with me with my original vision. It was called Reality Golf, and you might as well call it TGL at this point, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, about a year later, some casinos up in Washington got really interested in what I was doing. And when I started sharing that with the Trent Jones family, that made them nervous, right? And so they wanted to get their attorneys involved and stuff. And so, very friendly, very quickly, I said, look, I'm going to go down this route with these casinos, and it sounds like you guys are uncomfortable with it. And so we sort of went in our different ways. What I didn't realize is that was probably the first time I got blacklisted from the entire U.S. golf ecosystem, right? I went and spent $6 more million over the next 7 years to keep bringing this thing forward. And so I've got all kinds of stories about that. But, what's really interesting is where we're at today with TGL, because that's the stadium version of a new sport.
Yeah.
That same stadium version is going to be available on a golf court. Like, think of it like a pickleball court. And so, my plan is really build an exciting game, get the pros to play it, and then be able to deliver it, next to a sports bar or next to a basketball court or next to a pickleball court, right? It's the same software, right? So the same software that runs the TGL is going to run the golf court. And so what I've been doing is building a suite of products that sort of enter the market at different scales and at different price points, but they're all tied to the same game, which is this game that plays through a screen and onto a putting green.
That's amazing. That is such a brilliant concept, and the fact that you were able to bring this to life is insane. And it's 100%. This is the next thing of golf, because you're right. Trying to putt on a screen, which I tried once, you can't do it. It doesn't work.
Nope. So the way the U.S. economy works around innovators in golf is it's all controlled. So that's one of the things I realized, right? So it's hard to innovate things when you have to pay your way in, and then once you're in, and you don't have to develop anything more because you own that part of the market. And that's sort of how you get into the golf business in the U.S., right? Is you wine and dine with some people, you get your blessing that you can go to market in that area, and then you kind of own it, and they'll leave you alone. And so you don't really need to get better, right? Because you own it. And so the first time I wanted to get a hold of Tiger Woods, so Johnny Miller is a pretty close friend of mine now. His agent is a guy named Bill Service, who's like a brother of mine, really. And so I spent a lot of time. Johnny came to our lab in 2017 or 2018, and I went to his charity golf tournament at Silverado, and he gave me a lot of advice around how to do this, and I wanted to get a hold of Tiger. And Bill Service goes to me, he goes, well, you're going to have to pay $250,000 to get a date with Tiger. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. Tiger should be paying me $250,000 to get a date with me. So I kind of had that mindset throughout my development journey, right? And I actually got all my work to Mark Steinberg, who's Tiger's agent, in 2020, right? So as the pandemic hit. So, in the background, there's a lot of really smart people that have all been working together. And I would say it's Mark Steinberg, it's Lee Steinberg. One of my buddies is David Meltzer, who was Lee Steinberg's CEO at his company when they made Jerry Maguire. And so I think these guys got together and sort of figured out how to form this media company, Tomorrow Sports. And I think that's going to be the company that ends up buying my patent here pretty soon, when this new company they keep talking about that's going to own the PGA Tour probably buys the TGL League.
Now, listen, you are very well connected.
And so now you're just left.
And I'm excited to hear that part of it. Before we get into that, I really want to hear your vision on how you believe that professional golfers are going to use that. Because obviously you're speaking with Tiger, right? And so you really see that this is going to be not only something fun to do, but can be a real training tool going forward for professional golfers. So how do you see that advancement happening, and how do you see that working for golfers in the future?
So Alexis Ohanian, he founded Reddit. He's married to Serena Williams. So it sounds like he purchased all 6 of the franchise teams. So we've got 18 players that are committed to play in the TGL League. And that's 3 players per team, 6 teams. And each team is a franchise, just a lot like these live teams are going to be franchised, right? So that's very similar model, very similar ownership structure. Well, Alexis bought all 6 teams, and he formed a company called the LA Golf Club. And so the LA Golf Club will develop a team. It'll probably have 3 players on it. I heard Colin Morikawa talking about a project in LA that we're going to hear a lot more about this weekend at the U.S. Open. A gal named Maggie Hathaway has a par 3 course right on the runway of LAX, and they're doing a renovation there. The USGA is donating $1 million, and they've already raised $15 million for the renovation. And Colin mentioned that in his interview today. So I sense that all these things are going to come together and create, 5 or 6 arenas, right, to play this game in, one in each area that owns a franchise team. And I imagine Alexis is going to help me sell the other 5 franchise teams, right? Since he bought the whole book, right? So he bought the whole book, and then he owns the LA franchise. And so I think he's got some really good ideas about, how to push this out, how to create, an emotional bond to each of these teams. And the pro players are going to be in this tight little arena that only has room for 1,500, 2,000 people. And it's just going to be an exciting environment, with all kinds of technology all around you, and, players mic'd up and being able to see their heart rates and hitting difficult shots. And I think it's just going to be a really exciting scene. And I'm excited to see it going forward. I do want to clarify, I've never met Tiger yet. I don't even know if Tiger knows my name, right? So I did see that Charlie was wearing a Snoopy hat, though, at the Hero World Challenge last year. And somebody asked him about it. I think it was JT. And I thought, dang, I bet that's a secret code back to me.
There you go.
So obviously we've heard a lot over the last week about the PGA and the PIF agreement. What do you think brought these 2 groups together after they fought each other for the last year?
So I think you have to understand a little bit of background before you answer that question. So the PIF has been invested in golf since I began my entrepreneurial journey in 2015, right? So they're not new. They've got their hands in every element of golf except what the PGA Tour controls. And what became clear is that we can't really unify the globe around golf unless we're all working together, right? We're all rowing the boat in the same direction. And so the PIF approached the PGA Tour. They went to the Masters, and they got in there, and they realized that the tour didn't want to do business with them, right? And they tried, but there was an ego or an arrogance or something there that prevented any dialogue, right? Ed Herlihy, the chairman of this whole thing, said in a meeting to all the players, if we don't own it, it ain't going to happen, period. Right. And so that's the mindset Jay took. They all miscalculated just terribly badly. Right. So the PIF is the big bank in this whole world. And the PIF knows everybody. And they've approached everybody in good faith. And some of the people they worked with weren't in good faith with them. And as they discovered who's in good faith and not in good faith, they were able to align teams around that. And now they're in a position where they've essentially sunk the tour, right? So the tour's now come out and said that we're all together, right? We're better together, right? So if you think of the message,
Right.
so that's all that the fifth really needed was a message of unity, and so they got that. And now what I think is going to happen is I think Tiger's going to form his own tour, and he's going to invite all the PGA players onto his tour, and he's going to sell his tour to this new company that everybody's talking about. And Jay and Ed and Jimmy are going to be stuck holding on to a tour that doesn't have any people in it.
Well, and hey, that wouldn't be the
but
first
it's
time
got a lot of problems.
that wouldn't be the first time two major golfers have come together to really form something different, right? We have the PGA because of Jack and Arnie coming together and creating something new in a time
right.
just like this in golf. So my question to you is because Jay Monahan has not handled this situation well, even coming out today and blaming Congress for this happening as they look into this deal to begin with. So if you're Jay Monahan, and right now you're just trying to save face, you're the commissioner of golf now, how do you handle this situation? What's your next move to try and really unify everybody together?
Yeah, well, so I see myself as potentially the leader of this new company that everybody's been talking about, right? So Yasser hired a lobbying firm in D.C. well over a year ago, and one of the first phone calls I got was from that lobbying firm. So, and I said, "Wow, you made a good call here." I said, "I think of myself as a little bit like a silent partner or a shadow leader, right? Because I'm already in the U.S. market, I already have a plan." So I want Yasser to know about my plan, but he doesn't really need to commit anything to me. So, over the last year, I've known that this lobbying firm was lobbying. And so now listening to Jay say that he was hoping Congress was going to bail him out tells me that they lost the lobbying game, right? So Yasser clearly won the lobbying game. The other thing that made no sense, so I'm going to answer your question about Jay. He's out of a job and he's irrelevant now is what the truth is, Kyle. He's sitting on a worthless pile that he burned down himself. He should have thought of this a year and a half ago, and he'd probably be sitting on a fortune in value. And he's just destroyed so much value from the PGA Tour with his actions of division and tearing people apart and all this stuff. And so, it just doesn't work.
Greg Norman looks like he's also going to be on the outs after all this is done. Where do you see this? What do you see as the tour or as professional golf a year, 18 months from now?
Yeah, so honestly, I don't see Greg as out. So I think Greg is I met Greg in Portland. The LIV team invited me out to the Portland tournament last June. I think he's a very mature man at this point in his life. He lost this war in '94, and when they reinitiated it, I don't think he intended to lose it twice. So to be honest with you, I think what's going to happen is Tiger's going to have his tour, and Norman's going to have his tour, and it's going to be perfect, right? You've got this renegade tour under Norman that sort of broke everything free. You've got this other tour under Tiger that is going to be motivated to prove they still got it, right? And I think in the short term, all the top 20 are going to go to the new tour because that's the safe place to go now, right? So Jay's come out and said, hey, we're all one family. So, Yasser's come out and said business as usual. So if I was the top 20, I'd be signing up with LIV right now, right? Because they don't know what they're going to get from the PGA Tour, but they know what they're going to get from LIV. They're going to get $25 million purses, and they already know their schedule for the next year or two. PGA Tour players are in limbo, right? I heard John Rahm say today, we don't know what's going on, right? We don't even, the Hawaii tournament during the RBC, we're saying we need some answers, right? The tournament's only 6 months away, and we don't even know what's going on yet. So I just think the PGA Tour is a big train wreck right now, and I think that Yasser sort of orchestrated that in a way. And let me explain that really quick, because when they announced their deal, right, They said they're going to form an LLC in the United States, and Yasser is going to be chairman of that LLC. Well, that makes no sense because the Saudis just spent years building an investment arm in the United States that is, headquartered in Ponte Vedra. And any investment in the United States comes through Live Golf Investments. And so a United States entity that's funded by the PIF already exists. That United States entity is what's going to fund this new co. And now you're telling me the chairman of the PIF is going to go 2 layers around and be the chairman of an LLC in the United States when he runs the biggest oil company in the world? I mean, I think he was testing Jimmy and Ed to see how much smarts they had. I mean, that should have been a red flag for them right away, right? I mean, I don't think they knew all this stuff because they didn't really pay attention to it as it was being formed.
Sounds like this has been a chess match for some people and checkers for others from the very beginning. Well, Dave, we're excited to see where NextLink is going to go. I mean, it looks fantastic. We certainly are going to be watching. Would love to be a part of it as things go on. Please, we're always here. We'd love to have you on, and we've appreciated your time today.
No, like I said, I'm looking forward to getting my son on with me too, and the 4 of us can get to know each other better over time. I'm pretty sure that the next 3 days are going to be pretty magical, right? There's going to be so much coming out during the U.S. Open that by Monday, Yasser said he'd have this deal done in 2 weeks to close, right? Yasser is the chairman of Aramco. When the Newcastle United deal was not going through, Yasser called Boris Yeltsin and fixed it on the phone, right? So when Yasser said we're going to have this thing done in 2 weeks, I believed him. So Tuesday after the U.S. Open is the 2 weeks. And so I imagine that everybody's going to have clarity by midweek next week around what's going on next.
Well, I haven't seen some of these deals. The lawyers have the deals done long before anything is announced. So when they said there's details to follow, I wasn't buying that. I think the deal is done, and it's just a matter of, okay, how do we announce this? So it's going to be fun to...
I agree.
Well, Dave, let us know if you hear anything over the weekend. You know how to get a hold of us, and we would love to have you on again.
You guys are going to see this. This could be actually a pretty special recording, right? So if I'm right, I think I'm going to be announced sometime, maybe Father's Day. Everybody knows that I had this idea with my son on his birthday, and that that I'm after legacy building and how do I make the world better for guys like Kyle and Ethan, right? Give them something fun to chew on while they're grinding. So Father's Day feels like it could be a special day for me, and I'm sure if it is that I won't need to call you. You'll probably hear about it.
Well, we'll be calling you then.
Exactly.
Well, I hope for your sake.
All right, fellas.
I hope for your sake it's a very special Father's Day. Every father tries to build a legacy for their kids down the line. I think you've got something very special and very exciting about to happen. So thank you very much.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
So I always look forward to the U.S. Open golf because on Father's Day weekend, we always get out. I'm going to be watching very closely this weekend. If any of those predictions that Dave mentioned, look, he's a smart guy. He's not going to say something that he doesn't think is going to happen. There could be a huge shakeup in the golf world before this weekend is over.
There could. I mean, look at this conversation of a new Tiger Tour. I mean, that's something we haven't heard, but could easily see it happening.
The top players on the PGA Tour are not happy.
How could you be?
You can't. I mean, I would be furious. And don't tell me, well, they make a lot of money. You know what? That was life-changing money they were offered, no matter how much money you have.
Right.
And they walked away, and now they're supposed to just let the live guys come in, and all's forgotten. It was not handled.
This is like, the only way I know how to describe this is this is like almost like a union strike, right? Where you have all of a sudden these people crossing the picket line and coming back, and now you're supposed to go back and act like nothing ever happened. This is exactly what's happening in golf. Jay Monahan is... I can't imagine him keeping his job. And for him to come out today, and again, we're talking Tuesday, we record Tuesday, show pops Wednesday, for him to come out and blame Congress for this.
I don't get that. And how do you not, excuse me, with that kind of an announcement, not tell the Rory McIlroys who have defended the tour to the nth degree for the last year? How do you now go from saying, well, we can't take Saudi money to, no, we just signed a partnership deal with them. Don't worry, Rory. We appreciate your time.
They did the same thing to Tiger. Rory more so because Tiger's really on his last leg here. No pun intended.
But John Rahm, all those guys that stuck around, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the weekend. I'm going to watch all of it now, obviously, just to see what announcements come out. Dave was a great guest. I'm looking forward to having him back on again.
Yeah.
It sounds like we meant it when we said NextLinks is the future of golf. Well, it may be even more than just the great software he's gotten. It could be much, much more than that, and it's going to be exciting to see.
And I'm expecting it to happen. You and I are going to be following our golf tradition this year. Hopefully, you'll be my caddy.
I've got to be your caddy again this year, but
hopefully we'll get you back on. We're hitting the gym. You still look old, but we'll get some muscle around you so you can swing a little bit more. But we are going out. We're playing our 19 this week, or 18, not 19.
Yeah, neither one of us drink anymore, so we don't have a 19th hole except for Diet Coke and water.
Exactly. But we will have our 18 holes, and hopefully
it'll be warmer than it is here today.
It'll be a lot nicer.
Only in Wisconsin can we go from the 80s just a couple days ago to this Sunday it going down to in the mid 50s, and today it's cold and rainy, and I'm complaining, but there's a lot to complain about.
Could be worse. You could be on fire. For all of you celebrating a very, very happy Father's Day to all of you, I hope you get out with the kiddos and get to really enjoy your time as much as I know you and I will. We're going out on Friday to have our dad celebration, and then I get to spend some time with the kids. They are giggling about the gift they got me, so I am very nervous.
What'd they give me?
A hug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm sure they have stuff for you too. You have to remember, Father's Day I'm not a part of. I'm not allowed near any of it. I don't know what they're getting you. I don't know what they're getting me. I am told to wash my hands of this.
What are you getting? Well, we're going
golfing.
Yeah, we go golfing. Good course this year too.
It is a good course. It's a course we haven't played before. But before we end this show, any conversation you have with your father, the dad gets the last word. It is all you.
So, and it's going to be all about Father's Day in this episode. My dad was the best guy in the world. I mean, he had more common sense in his little finger than I probably have in my whole body. He was a part of the greatest generation. The best gift he ever gave me was my last name, and I always tried to live up to it. I'm not sure I did all the time, but I was very, very blessed. And for all of you out there, take time, spend it with your kids, enjoy them, realize they are truly gifts from God, and no matter whether they're 10 and 7 or they're in their 30s or even older, they're the best things in your life, and family is the best thing to ever have around. So to Ryan, to Kyle, to Cassie, I love you all. I'm blessed to be your dad, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. So that's it.
You're not dying, are you?
No, you're not getting rid of me that easy.
All right, that was very somber, and I wanted to make sure you're telling me everything that I need to know here.
Look, it's Father's Day. I get choked up on Father's Day, so I'm just wanted to get it out.
That's fair. Hey, we are very lucky to have you as a dad. That is for sure. Thank you so much as always for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.